Well, some things about the playoff picture got clearer, and some things are a lot murkier.
You are Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans. Welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully. Follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or whatever they're calling it these days. And on Instagram, I am your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. But the best way to get a hold of me is right here on the YouTube page. And if you're going to leave a comment, make sure to have that hashtag Everyday Sully. It helps us figure out who is leaving us a message. Today's episode is brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. All right, before we get just absolutely head first dive into my thoughts on the events of Sunday, let's go through the trivia question, shall we? The trivia question I gave the last time was, where is it? It was, what future Hall of Famer hit the only home run in the 1990 ALCS between the Red Sox and the A's? That was the A's when they had the Bash brothers. The Red Sox are obviously playing in home run friendly Fenway Park. A future Hall of Famer hit the only one home run was hit in the entire 4-game sweep by the A's. Well, Michael KT8GZ, which I think is his real name, said it's down to 3 players: Henderson, I mean Ricky Henderson, Harold Baines, and Wade Boggs. Yes, those are the 3 Hall of Fame hitters who played in that series. Now, I think Dwight Evans belongs in the Hall of Fame. I know other people think Mark McGwire belongs to the Hall of Fame. I have no compunction of putting him there. Willie McGee had a great career. There were a lot, Ellis Burks and Mike Greenwell were all great hitters, but the only 3 players in that series who are currently enshrined in the Hall of Fame were Ricky Henderson, Harold Baines, and Wade Boggs. So which one was it? Well, Chris Smith said, trivia question, Ricky Henderson. And he got it wrong. It was not Ricky Henderson. So was it Harold Baines or was it Wade Boggs? Well, Jackson Van Hooser said Wade Boggs. Yep, it was Wade Boggs. Wade Boggs hit a home run in Game 1 of the ALCS that year. They briefly gave the Red Sox the lead with Roger Clemens on the mound. And then it was a 2-1 game going into the 9th inning. A's were up 2-1. And then the Red Sox bullpen absolutely collapsed. The final was 9-1. So it looked on paper, it looked like, it was a blowout. The A's blew them out 9-1. It was 2-1 going into the 9th. And that one run was by Wade Boggs. And that was the only home run in the entire ALCS. So there you go. That is the correct answer. Good job, Jackson Van Hooser, who's always throwing in an answer to the trivia question. Hey, let's go over who owned baseball, because that will give us a pretty good idea of some of the action going on in baseball. Tyler Glasnow pitched into the 7th, allowing 1 run in over 6 2/3 innings, and he struck out 4 Giants, and the Dodgers absolutely sandbagged the Giants 10-2. You know, the Giants won that first game on the walk-off grand slam and then had an early 4-1 lead in the second game. And every Giant fan I know was absolutely salivating, knowing that the Mets were losing, the Giants were winning, and by the end of this weekend, boom, you were going to see the Giants leapfrog the Mets into one of the playoff spots. And then the Dodgers said, wait a minute, aren't we the World Series champs? They came back and won the other day, and then they absolutely gave the Giants a 2-4 with a 10-2 victory. Jackson Merrill hit a 3-run home run. He got another hit, and the Padres outslugged the Rockies 9-6. And the Padres are standing by there. They're going to certainly be a playoff team. We're running out of time. There's only about a dozen or so games left. We're running out of time, really, for the Padres to overtake Los Angeles for the AL West, but I think they have a pretty secure playoff spot. And the Dodgers pitching staff, you'll notice a lot of Dodgers pitchers have been owning baseball recently, and that's a good sign for the defending champs if they want to keep going. George Kirby struck out 14 Angels in 6 1/3 innings, and Cal Raleigh reached base 3 times, including his 54th home run that tied Mickey Mantle for the most home runs by a switch hitter in a single season. And the Mariners blew out the Angels 11-2. We'll get back to the Mariners' victory. Mickey Moniak got in half wobs. Mickey Moniak homered twice, but the Rockies lost to San Diego 9-6. Adam Mazur pitched a great game for Miami. He allowed 1 Detroit hit and 2 unearned runs over 6 innings, but took the hard luck 2-0 loss as Detroit won there. Adrian Hauser pitched 6 really good innings, but the Rays bullpen lost the 4-3 game to the Cubs. And Aaron Judge got 2 hits, including a home run. But the Red Sox held on. They scored 6 in the first, didn't score again the rest of the game, and held on for dear life for a 6-4 victory that ended. The Red Sox were able to salvage the final game of that series. Okay, let's talk about, there are a lot of dramatic games that happened, but I think in some ways the 11-2 blowout by the Seattle Mariners was one of the most interesting games of the year. Raleigh is putting together his case for the MVP. George Kirby, right after Woo's great start, is showing that the Mariners can pitch, and mind you, can they pitch? And all the way over in Atlanta, where the Braves beat up the Astros 8-3, and with the victory by the Seattle Mariners, right now, because the Mariners are going to be having a showdown with the Astros in a matter of days. There's only like 13, 14 games left. The magic number for the Seattle Mariners to win the American League East has been reduced to 12. 12. And remember, every time they beat the Astros head-to-head, that's lopping 2 off. They have a 1-game lead with about 2 weeks left in the season. And the Mariners are in first place by themselves. And with their pitching and with their hitting, they are going to be dangerous. And suddenly, with the fact, the Red Sox won, and they're going to be, they've gotten out of this, this series with the Yankees. They managed to salvage 1 game out of it. The Rangers lost that game to the Mets, which the Rangers tied the game late, and everybody, including you, thought it was going to be another Rangers victory, another Met loss. But the Mets managed to push it to extra innings, and Pete Alonso hit a walk-off home run. So that gave the Red Sox a little bit of wiggle room, as they're 3 games up on the Rangers, who are on the outside looking in. But the Astros and the Rangers are separate. The Astros fell out of first place by themselves. And guess what? The Astros are only 2 games ahead of the Texas Rangers as of this recording. The Astros were in first place by themselves just a couple of days ago. And now, with about 2 weeks left to go in the season, and the Rangers playing pretty well, and the Astros did not fare well against the Atlanta Braves, of which the Braves swept them. Well, guess what happens on Monday? The Astros and the Rangers play each other. If the Rangers sweep that series, the Astros will fall out of first place. This is an AL West gauntlet that's going to go for Houston, which just a couple of weeks ago looked like it was their division to lose. And I was thinking, man, this could be a good time for the Astros to prove, hey, don't forget about us. Well, I hate to Breakfast Club, but don't you forget about me here. If the Astros don't pick up the slack here in the next 6 games where they're playing Texas and Seattle, they could be pushed right out of the playoffs altogether. Now, for people who hate the Astros, and there's lots of them out there, Astro fans, you have to understand that's part of the deal. But the fact of the matter is, we are going to see a gauntlet for the Astros, and we are seeing that right now, the Mariners are passing virtually every test. And if the Rangers get a little angry and they put their sweeping shoes on, even if they win that series, this could be a very interesting and potentially devastating week for the Houston Astros. We got to see what they're made of. But we found out what the Yankees were made of, and we'll talk about that when we come back. All right, let's hear from our friends over at FanDuel, the NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready to kick off with a can't miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. You know, when people use FanDuel, they love it because it fits however you like to bet. Player props, building a same game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to your Sundays. So if you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app now by visiting fanduel.com to get started. That's fanduel.com to place your first $5 bet. That's fanduel.com. And now let's hear from our good friends over at Prize Picks. You know, it's the daily fantasy app where making the right call can actually pay off. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right means cashing in. With a football back, Prize Picks is the simplest and fastest way to get on the action. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player projections, and you can turn your takes into real prizes. Now, it's quick, easy, and honestly, it's the best way to follow football all season long. You want to check in with your projections like what's Josh Allen going to pass, or Saquon Barkley is going to go more or less on one rushing TD. This week's max discounts, you've got to have, let's see, it's going to be Travis Kelce will have 0.5 receiving yards. Travis Kelce, has he been in the news for other reasons? I think he has. He's on my fantasy marrying league. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB for $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. Prize Picks, you know what? It's good to be right. I was talking about the Rangers gauntlet. Let's give the Yankees a little bit of credit. Okay? They lost today, but even the way they lost today, the Red Sox ambushed Warren in the first inning, and Crochet pitched very, very well. Thank you very much. But the Yankees held on and made it a ball game. And the Yankees went on this wild gauntlet. You know, everyone was criticizing, and me too. I compared them to Biff Tannen from Back to the Future, that they could beat up bad teams, but they lose to good teams. Well, they played the Astros and the Red Sox on the road, and the Blue Jays and the Tigers at home. They won the series against the Astros, they won the series against the Blue Jays, and they won the series against the Red Sox. Now, they lost the series to Detroit, but in the gauntlet, they went 7-5. And I don't think there's a Yankee fan on the planet Earth at the beginning of that 12-game stretch who would not have been happy with a 7-5 record. Not one. And they showed that they got some very, very good pitching, and not all of it from, not all of it from their ace, Fried. I almost said Garrett Cole. They got none of it from Garrett Cole. But, Heel pitched well. Rodon pitched well. And yes, there was a couple of boneheaded games. The games against Detroit, the first 2 games against Detroit, they looked dreadful. The one game they lost to Houston, they looked terrible. But the game they lost today, Warren pitched a crap inning in the first inning. And actually, it was just the Red Sox were getting to him. And then he settled down. And then some of the pitchers who have been pretty crappy down the stretch, Doval pitched well today. Gavin Williams pitched well over the last few days. The bullpen, which has been their bugaboo, they're in the air and they're everywhere, that they've pitched pretty darn well. And so if you're a Yankee fan, and I want to stop the rumor, I'm not, you've got to feel a little bit better now. The Yankees have pretty much secured a playoff spot. With only about a dozen games left, as of this recording, the Yankees are, they're up 5 games in the loss column, 4 games in the win column to Texas, with about 12, 13 games left to play. There's no way, unless they went on an absolute nosedive, that's not going to happen, okay? They're going to be a playoff team. Now, they're probably not going to be able to beat Toronto. They're not going to be able to pass Toronto in the standings. In the last 10 games, the Yankees are 6-4. and have in those same 10 games have dropped the game in the standings to the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays wound up sweeping their series. They're an 86-win team. They're 3 games ahead of the Yankees and, of course, own the tiebreaker. So the Yankees actually have to play 4 games better than the Blue Jays down the stretch. Now, I know the Yankees are basically playing tomato cans the rest of the way, but I mean, it's tough to make up 4 games, even if you're playing little leaguers. And Toronto knows that they have to win this division. And the good thing, if you're a Toronto fan, is that the American League West is going to basically eat each other. Between Houston, Seattle, who's in first place now, Texas on the outside looking in or drooling to get in, they're going to be beating each other up. And the fact of the matter is they will probably finish behind Toronto and Detroit. Now, if you're Toronto, you're going to want to have that break. You're going to want to be able to line it up with Gausman going game 1 and putting your best pitchers on there. For the Tigers, it's absolutely critical, especially since it looks like Skubal's not going to spend any time on the injured list. You have to have Skubal ready to go with rest in not playing the wild card series. And I think those 2 teams, barring a collapse in the final 2 weeks, are pretty secure. But the Yankees are pretty secure, too, in getting that wild card spot, of which, as of this recording, they would have to play the Red Sox. Now, if you start Crochet versus Fried, that's a hell of a game 1. It would be at Yankee Stadium. And they almost cancel each other out. So if they face each other, that should be a great series. Now, if the Red Sox continue, they have stumbled a bit, but they still have a few game cushion for a wild card spot. If they fall to the final wild card position, then the Yankees would play the runner-up of the American League West. And if that's Houston, that would just be something for Yankee fans, because they would want to definitely try to get over the hump and the hurdle for the Houston Astros. If it's Seattle, I'd have to pick Seattle, because I like their starting pitcher. Even though Fried has pitched really well, and Rodon has pitched really well, and Gil has pitched pretty well, I like the depth of the Mariners starting staff. But the one thing you can't do if you're a fan is root for positioning, because you never know. You never know what team's going to show up. You never know what team's going to look great. You never know what team is going to counter punch. So you never say, like, oh, I can't wait to play that team because we're going to kick the tar out of them. And then next thing you know, off you go. But the Yankees look a lot better now. Hell of a lot better now. And with that, do you know what? If you're a Yankee fan, you take your chances, because, as I said before, there is no super team in the American League. There are 2 terrific teams right now in the National League. Granted, neither one of them won on Sunday. Oh, wait, I want to talk. I thought the Phillies lost. Am I losing my mind? I thought for sure. Didn't the Phillies lose to the Royals today? Or maybe I lost my mind. Either way, forgive me. I'm trying to keep track of all. Yeah, the Royals clobbered the Phillies, and the Milwaukee Brewers were edged out by the St. Louis Cardinals. But those 2 teams look super secure in the top 2 spots in the National League. And the Dodgers, by winning that series against San Francisco, I think are pretty secure in the NL West. But keep in mind, right now, they're 4 games behind the Brewers in the loss column, and they are where are they from the Phillies? They're 3 games back of the Phillies in the loss column. For 4 games back in the Phillies in the loss column. So the chances are the Dodgers will not be avoiding that wild card series, which means a bad 3 games could eliminate the defending champs. Well, one team that had a real salivating, absolutely can't wait to play them attitude found themselves punched in the mouth this weekend, and it might have been a death blow. You've probably seen a million ads for hair growth products and thought, sure, like that actually works. There's so many products out there, and it's hard to know which ones are actually going to do anything. That's why you got to give Nutrafol a closer look. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement brand, trusted by over 1.5 million people, and it's not just hype. This is a supplement clinically tested that targets the root causes of thinning and shedding with a proactive approach. Now, Nutrafol is simple to add to your day, 4 pills with a meal, no prescription needed, and it's easy. And whether you're at work or out with your friends or even just getting ready for the morning, Nutrafol gives you more confidence in your daily routine. And you can feel good about it knowing Nutrafol is an NSF certified and backed by peer-reviewed studies. See thicker, stronger hair with less shedding in just 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering Locked On MLB listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com and enter the promo code Locked On MLB. That's Nutrafol.com, promo code Locked On MLB. With the Mets flopping and flailing, the Reds were on the precipice of leapfrogging them into the final wild card spot. And I had mentioned before, like, oh, they're about, game and a half out. If those 2 games back in April this, those 2 games in April that. And off they went to Sacramento. And I guarantee you that everyone in Cincinnati circled those games as an easy win. Easy win. And what happened when they went to Sacramento? I'll tell you, they got their butts swept. They got absolutely swept out of town. And with that, the A's and the Angels getting the doors blown off the dump in Seattle, the A's are climbing out of the cellar. They are not going to finish in last place. They could conceivably not finish in last place in their year, wandering through the desert in Sacramento. But the fact of the matter is the A's pretty much, let's just say since mid-July, for roughly the last 2 months, the Sacramento A's have, say it with me, folks, the best record in the American League. The best record in the American League over basically a third of the season. And they have been playing spoiler. And they just absolutely torched the playoff dreams of the Cincinnati Reds. And so if you are looking at your schedule and you're thinking, oh boy, here we go. We're going to play them the Sutter Health Park. We're going to play the team that stinks. They're rudderless. They don't even know where they are. Be alert, Red Sox. Be alert, Astros. You have 2 teams that are absolutely drooling to get into the postseason with a gauntlet of coming up. And if Red Sox fans and Astro fans think that these are going to be easy wins, then I'm sorry, you're dead wrong. Just ask the Reds. Just ask the Tigers, who the A's swept. The Mariners lost a game to them, not too long ago. They swept a 4-game series against the Astros in July. You think the Astros want those games back? Beware of Sacramento. Oh, and by the way, it looks like they are building something in Las Vegas. I've been checking the ballpark cam. And as much as I've criticized the Fishers and much I've been cynical and skeptical about the whole thing, I want to be wrong. I got to tell you, the renderings of the ballpark in Las Vegas look awesome. I want to see it built. So at least so far, checking the ballpark cam there, where they have the 24-hour camera showing the building site in Vegas, something might be happening there. But something is happening the last 2 months in Sacramento. They're playing better than any team in the American League. So Red Sox, Astros, hanging on to their playoff spots by their absolute fingernails right now. Beware. Yes, the Red Sox beat them twice in Sacramento and then lost an extra inning game. Actually, no, it was an extra. It was in the ninth inning. Lost a walk-off game to the A's last week. So the Red Sox did play him well. But they're not going to have Crochet pitching. So someone else has to come up. And don't think, it's easy. They stink. No, they don't. For the last few weeks, the Sacramento A's have been elite. A has been the grade they've earned. So beware. Beware of the team that has nothing to lose and has been playing well, and everybody and their cow has been underestimating, because they probably just destroyed the wishes of the Cincinnati Reds. Will they do it to the Astros and Red Sox? We'll find out. But think about this week coming up for the Astros. They're going to be playing the Rangers. Then they're going to be playing the Mariners. And then they're going to be playing the A's. If you're an Astro hater, this could be amazing. If you're an Astro fan, this might be nerve-wracking. But we will see. But all I got to say to you is thank you for making Locked On MLB your first listen every day. For your second listen, check out right here on the Locked On MLB Game Night, every game, every night until a World Series champion is crowned, which will not be in Sacramento. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And let's go through the trivia question, shall we? The trivia question is, what future Hall of Famer hit the first postseason home run for the Yankees in the wild card era? When the playoffs expanded in 1995, what future Hall of Famer hit the first postseason home run for the Yankees in the wild card era? Put your answers right down there below. And follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or whatever it's called these days, on Instagram. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram, talking about your first place Seattle Mariners, the gauntlet that was won by the Yankees, and now the new gauntlet for the Astros, and the Reds swept by Sacramento, which is not as crazy as it sounds. This has been Locked On MLB. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.